Principles of Interviewing by Melissa Sineno, Denise Collins, Tyler McNee, and Patty Voigt. Melissa Sineno will be discussing interviewing strategies. Denise Collins will be discussing types of interviews. Tyler McNee will discuss the ethics of interviewing, and Patty Voigt will discuss how leaders use interviews to understand their staff, project work, and personal goals to develop a leadership strategy. Planning an interview involves creating a goal and a list of topics, analyzing the other party and the interview setting, and choosing a structure and questions to ask. Interviews consist of 3 parts: an opening, body, and closing. When planning an interview, you should make sure you define the goal of the interview. The goal could be as simple as getting information from the client or as complicated as building a long-term relationship. Preparing a list of topics is also a good strategy. This will help you gather all of the information you need to reach your goal. Analyzing the other party of an interview is important. When you do have the chance to pick the person, make sure to choose someone that will help satisfy your goal. The physical setting can influence the results of the interview as well. Try to choose a place with minimal distractions. If the interview is formal, sitting behind a desk is appropriate. If it is informal, sitting around a table may be a better idea. Time is also an important factor in planning an interview. You should allocate a certain amount of time for the interview and also pick the appropriate time of day. Lunchtime, for example, would not be an optimal interview time. The next step in planning an interview is to choose the best interview structure. A structured interview asks questions that only allow a limited range of answers. An unstructured interview has no set list of questions and allows flexible answers. A moderately structured interview is a combination of these two and is most commonly used. The types of questions asked has a lot to do with an interview's success or failure. Avoid asking leading questions, which are questions that suggest the answer that the interviewer is expecting. An example of a leading question is, "Don't you agree that team leaders should exert strict authority over their subordinates?" This type of question directs the interviewee in a biased way. Each interview has an opening, a body, and a closing. In the opening, or introduction, the interviewer should greet the interviewee and introduce him or herself. Next, the interviewer should give the interviewee a brief overview of what is about to follow. This overview should explain why the interview is being conducted and what information is needed. It should also explain any ground rules and mention the approximate length of the interview. It is in the body of the interview that questions and answers are exchanged. The interviewer should be the one to control the conversation. The interviewee needs to listen actively and give clear and detailed answers. When concluding the interview, it's important to clarify the results, establish what future actions need to be implemented, and end with pleasantries. Next, Denise will discuss the types of interviews.
Interviewing skills have never been more important. The economic recovery brings new employment opportunities and leadership for both job seeker and employers. The 3 main types of interviews are called the informational, the career research, and the employment interview. Each type is used in almost every occupation and industry. More importantly, strategic leaders and job seekers should plan effectively for each kind of interview. Informational interviews require analysis and research to define potential interviewees. Leaders should be able to define goals and strategies. For example, if the goal is to find an organization to partner with that could potentially increase business outcomes, a leader should define the strategy or explain what factors will carry the most weight during the interview. Research shows that less than 10% of job seekers find employment by using the internet, and that most jobs are found through networking. During the career research interview, ask what the interviewee likes most and least about their job. This is also an opportune time for the job seeker to find out what it takes to land that type of job. In addition, be sure to ask what kind of education, experience, or license is required to meet this career goal. The 3rd type of interview is the employment interview. According to the Bureau of National Affairs, the employment interview is the single most important factor in landing a job. Advantageously, find out who is the decision maker for the position you are seeking. In this competitive job market, make sure the following: your online identity is appropriate for cyber vetting, you have researched company profiles, you have prepared a strong cover letter and resume, and you are primed for a variation of interview arrangements. Prepare enough to project confidence and always dress appropriately. Through the interview, make good impression and showcase your knowledge of the job and company. Preparation for the actual interview can be made easier with accessing practice questions from the internet. always follow up with a thank you. Whether you get the job or not, this will leave a good, lasting impression. Finally, keep in mind that not all interview questions are acceptable by law. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission states that only job-related questions are allowable during the interview process. The next topic is ethics of interviewing.
Ethics of interviewing is something that is very misunderstood by individuals in our world today. Ethics of interviewing gives guidelines for what information can be exchanged between the interviewer and the interviewee. Many people tend to bend the rules when asking questions, and since the interviewee does not have the power to do anything about it, he or she tends to let it slide. When trying to decide if something is ethical or not, one should ask themselves if it is morally right. Would they want to be asked the same question? Some examples of wrong ethical questions are personal questions, such as, "Are you single and do you have children?" The text goes into more detail about lying. For example, one should not make a promise that they cannot keep, meaning, do not lie about yourself or anything that you have done. The second is to keep confidence. There is no need to reveal confidential information or discuss anything that may be personal. There is no legitimate reason that the interviewer or interviewee should have that type of information, and if it hinders the applicant's potential, then it can be brought up in the court of law. The next is not to judge people on their personal opinions. A huge problem in today's world is judging people by the way that they see politics. A lot of people in today's world have a harder time in an interview because of the way that they see politics. Even though it is ethically and morally wrong, it happens almost every day, and there is not a simple way to prove that it actually happened. The last obligation is to treat others with respect. By treating others unfairly, it can come back to haunt you, and you could potentially hurt yourself and others by doing so. In conclusion, ethics of interviewing has to do with what is right and what is wrong. The basis of ethical guidelines and responsibilities in an interview is a result of people's morals.
Leaders often use performance appraisals to understand their staff, project work, and set personal goals to help develop a leadership strategy. Leaders perform an appraisal to review employee performance. The appraisal measures skills and accomplishments with uniformity and reasonable accuracy. When conducting an appraisal, this can often lead to a discussion of an employee's performance of assigned duties and responsibilities. These results are based on the employee's work ethic and not on their individual personality. It provides a way to identify areas for performance enhancement and help promote personal growth. Leaders can gain a better understanding of each employee's abilities and set targets for their future goals. Leaders can use this process to recognize achievement, evaluate job process, and then design training needs for future development of an employee's skills and strengths. If a leader conducts an appraisal correctly, then the employee's interest in their job will grow, and this will improve their job performance. It can also stimulate a desire to stay with the company long term, where they know they can strive for success in the workplace. I hope you enjoyed our presentation on the principles of interviewing. Thank you for your time, and please look forward to our reference page.